What actor or actress stupidly left a movie franchise or TV series thinking they were too good for it, only to be never popular again? George Lazenby has to be the top answer. Dude with zero acting experience lands the role of James Bond after Sean Connery and was offered a multi-film deal to be Bond for the foreseeable future. Then his agent just totally misguides him, telling him both that it's the summer of love and nobody's going to keep wanting to see spy movies about killing people, but also that since he'd already appeared in a film, he could ask for whatever he wanted and they couldn't turn him down. They brought Connery back for a film instead, and Lazenby's acting career basically ended on the spot. Yeah, but Lazenby also hated how much the studios tried to dictate his life during and outside shooting. He didn't embody the Bond visage in his day-to-day life. Not to mention, Peter Hunt basically used and abused him during filming for the first one. Like straight up said, we could kill him and replace him tomorrow if needed. I like to think even if Lazenby would have continued, he would have left for the same reasons Connery left in the first place. Chuck Woolery left Wheel of Fortune only to see Pat Sajak host it for over 40 years. And Pat Sajak only worked, like 4 days every 2 months. Woolery does have some other credits to his name, notably Love Connection, Scrabble and Lingo. But you are right, none of them ever enjoyed the longevity that Wheel has. He just wanted Merv to pay him on par with other game show hosts, but Merv balked, so he left. Several of the actors of MASH left early to make it big. None of them really did. Radar left and did a lot of stage work. I assume he never really needed to work again after 8 years on MASH. The only person who really seemed to have a career after MASH was Hawking. Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf. She was so certain she was done, she had them kill off her character, only for her career to flop outside of Teen Wolf, and 18 years later would come back and have them revive her character for the movie. Part of the reason she wanted to do other roles was because she wanted to play a more age-appropriate character. She admitted she felt weird playing a 16-year-old when she's nearing 30. Yeah, at least Cora and Jackson's actors went on to better or at least similar things. Allison had like a role on Gotham, briefly, and then nothing for years that you heard about. You left Melrose Place to do a movie with Carrot Top, chairman of the BORED, Rip Norm. Calculum. My ex-girlfriend was on a soap, but as a regular extra. They were starting to give her speaking roles, got her SAG card, etc. Once she got her SAG, she demanded more speaking roles, or she was leaving. She never got another role after that. Happened to a friend of mine 25 years ago in Los Angeles. She had a recurring role on a hit network sitcom, but it was a dumb show, and she wanted to be taken seriously, so she quit just as she was getting noticed. Never got another good role, quit acting a few years later, and moved to Las Vegas to run a Pilates studio. Imagine being an elevated extra and thinking you can make demands like this. Oh no, you're gonna leave. But we can't do the show without you. Brian Dunkelman was co-host of Season, one of American Idol with Seacrest, and then quit. Over the years, it has toggled back and forth between whether or not he would have been fired anyway, but in at least one interview, he admitted to quitting and then almost becoming suicidal over it. I remember he went on Howard Stern right after he quit, and Howard bluntly asked him what he was thinking and telling him he was an absolute idiot for leaving. Howard was right. The thing I really love about this are their names. Seacrest sounds like it was engineered in a lab where they were working on Dick Clark 2.0. Dunkelman sounds like a one-joke, throwaway character on The Simpsons. Marcus Chong was Tank in The Matrix, main character in a huge franchise. He had all of these big ideas about how the movie should be done and how his character should progress. That's fine, but he wouldn't stop pushing them on the directors and producers. When it came time to make Matrix 2, he was not invited back. Dude could have literally just shut up, been cool and thankful, and made huge bank and a bigger career. I don't know if the following is true, but I seem to recall him asking for $1 million per film to return for the sequels, because Tank was such an integral character, in Marcus's opinion. Then the studio said fuck that, hired Harold Perrineau, and killed Tank off via a couple lines of dialogue. Katie Holmes took a pass on The Dark Knight to go be in a movie called Mad Money. And like you, I haven't seen it either. My stepmother has some odd relation to Katie Holmes, like third cousin, twice removed kind of shit. Won't shut up about it, calls it her claim to fame. I keep asking her what Katie has been in, and she can't answer. Low. Edit. Had no idea thousands of people would find my stepmother's odd relation to Katie Holmes so interesting. Like half the cast of Downton Abbey, Jessica Brown Findlay was one of the first people I thought of. She's done a few things since she left, but none of them seemed bigger to me than Downton Abbey did. Then there's the opposite. Rose Leslie left for GOT, and then got a main role on The Good Fight. Ja Rule was in the first Fast and Furious movie. I like how Ludacris was in the second one as basically a cameo, and then went on to become a major part in the franchise. He had that sweet Firefest gig to go to. Monica. Ed Skrein left Game of Thrones as Daario Naharis, thinking that if he starred in the reboot of The Transporter, it would spawn sequel. That one still kinda blows my mind. I know there's a difference between being the lead role and playing second to third fiddle, but he left GOT after season 3 pretty much right, as it crossed into cultural phenomenon status, playing a character that was pretty much guaranteed to have screen time and not be killed for at least a few more seasons. Definitely a scenario where patience would benefited. David Caruso leaving Nipped Blue and Shelley Long leaving Cheers are good examples. They even did an inside joke on the show while at a drive-in movie. Cliff and Norm make note that one of the original actresses in the Godzilla films was replaced by another female actress and left halfway through the series. I don't understand, wonders Woody. Why would an actress leave right in the middle of a successful series? I don't remember much of his role from Nipped Blue, but he was the star of Miami, which was like a mega hit. Ike, do your impersonation of David Caruso's career. I loved Shelley in The Money Pit. Late to the party, but Stuart Townsend was the original casting for Aragorn in the Lot movies, but during pre-production and rehearsals, he refused to practice things like swordplay, horse riding, action choreography, etc., always responding, "You'll get it on the day." Peter Jackson decided he couldn't work with him. Viggo is brought in literally on the first day of shooting, and the rest is history. Thank Viggo's son Alex for pushing him to take the role. His son is a huge Lotto fan and thought it would be cool for his dad to play Aragorn. He pretty much did it for his son. Wait, that's why he was dropped. I'd heard people saying it was just that he wasn't the right fit. I never heard anything about him refusing to rehearse the action stuff. Also, best recasting ever. Stuart, I refuse to practice Viggo. Literally breaks bone for the role. More niche, but Michael Shanks, leaving Stargate's G1 only to come back a season, later buff as hell. I think he expected to get more roles, but at least they let him come back from the dead. Shanks didn't like the progression of his character. Same reason Tori Higginson left Stargate. The studio execs were not very accommodating to Shanks, because they thought no one liked him. I irked the quote was something like, "People like him. We thought people only watch this show for a dip." All this did was piss off the fan base. So, after a year, everyone came to their senses and got back on track. And yay, he was more buff than Odalo. Chad Michael Murray on One Tree Hill. I met him once. He came to a Comic-Con convention at my job years ago. Everyone was like, he looks so familiar. And someone finally figured it out. I worked in a coffee shop on site, and he was so humble and down to earth. He just hung out in our lobby with his wife and played with his kids for a few hours, took some pictures with couple employees and gave us an amazing tip. Cool ass dude, one of the only celebs I've ever met. Valerie Harper left her show Valerie and they replaced her with Sandy Duncan. That show is where I first saw Jason Bateman as a kid. Not an answer, but an interesting side note. Matt Damon turned down the lead role in Avatar. James Cameron wanted him so badly he offered him Tales of Profits, but Damon still said no. Phil made billions, losing Matt Damon around $250. Matt Damon has addressed this in interviews. He said that he liked the role, but that he needed to be available for post-prod for Bourne Supremacy and the schedules conflicted. But he also said that in doing so, he thinks that he turned down more money than anyone else. He knows lot. Leo DiCaprio almost missed out on Titanic because he didn't read for parts. James Cameron said something along the lines of, "Okay, thanks for coming in." Leo responded along the lines of, "Waity, I don't read, I don't get the part." And Cameron explained he'd be working on the film in post for several years after Leo was done filming, and he wasn't going to take the risk of casting the wrong person just because he was popular. Not quite your question, but I found it interesting. Leo's career could have been derailed if he didn't immediately humble himself to a screen chemistry read with Kate. Yes, Kate Winslet had a reading with Matthew McConaughey as Jack before Leo's role was finalized. James Cameron's explanation of Leo on Titanic is fantastic. He does not sugarcoat the encounter at all. Christian Bale said, "Leo has first dibs on any movie in Hollywood now." McLean Stevenson from MASH, edited for format. Another one I was coming to add. After a string of high-profile flops, Stevenson famously lamented, "I thought people loved McLean Stevenson. Turned out they loved Henry Blake." I missed Henry Blake and I genuinely enjoyed his character, but the addition of Sherman T. Potter really elevated that show. Emo, growing up raised by television, his character was a really good role model. Not too familiar with his other work or life outside of TV, but I always enjoyed him in that role. Lacey Chabert left Family Guy and was replaced by Mila Kunis, who has made bank between new episodes and syndication. She sounds like someone who's about to give up a huge opportunity. Beth Family Guy was cancelled after the third season. It wasn't until it hit huge in TV sales that Fox brought it back. The ratings weren't great those first 3 seasons, and it seemed like the show was done for good. Lacey Chabert didn't really quit, though. She was young and overworked and still in school. Besides acting in Party of Five and other films, she was doing a lot of voice work, too. She made the decision that was best for her personally, not because she wanted to be a big star somewhere else. She took and none for Gretchen Wieners to heart. Remember when Katherine Heil was nominated for an Emmy, and she withdrew herself from the nominees because she felt the writing hadn't been good enough? I feel like her career never recovered from that. She also went on to say she didn't like the film Knocked Up, which she starred in. I think talking shit about projects you're involved in is a really good way to burn your bridges. I don't know anything about that world, but if the writing is terrible and you still act your way to an Emmy nomination, isn't that just further support for your acting ability? Why not accept the nomination, potentially win the award, and then use that as bargaining leverage for the change you want?
This is all bizarre to me.
Jessica Rain from Call the Midwife. Man, I love this show, and on rewatches, I'm like, damn, did she really leave so soon? After that, the show turns into a bit of a revolving door sitcom, but they do it well. I'm just continually surprised that Sister Monica Joan is always still there. Love her. Not exactly the same as your question, but Sean Connery turned down the role of Gandalf for $30 with 15s of profits, which would have got him about $450. He said he didn't understand the script. So next time he was offered a script he didn't understand, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He took it, ended up so disappointed in the product that he retired from acting. The man who starred in Zardoz didn't understand The Lord of the Rings. Really? You cannot push. Not for nothing, but I'm glad he turned it down. Sir Ian McKellen was perfect in that role. I cannot see anyone else pulling it off the way he did. Edit. McKellen. As several have pointed out, I messed up his name. My bad. Autofill did the work for me, and I missed it. Apologies! While it's not a deep film, I really enjoyed Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was a lot of fun. I mean, they weren't making Casablanca. That movie had already been made. I think he skipped out on a couple of scripts that hit it big that he didn't understand, L'Auteur being the biggest. I forget the other big script he skipped on. Honestly, for the time commitment of Lot, it was a good thing he didn't take it. The kind of commitment needed to be a long-term part of that production would be grueling. It was like 18 months of shooting, travelling the length and breadth of New Zealand, in all kinds of conditions, in realistic costume, and often extensive makeup. Terrence Howard was in Iron Man 1, and was going to become War Machine. This was the very start of the Marvel movies, the McHugh. He got bounced, I think, for asking for crazy money.
Tom Channel replaced him for Iron Man 2 and all the movies beyond.
Next time, baby. I don't think so. Look, it's me. I'm here. Deal with it. Let's move on. Don Shedlu. Terrence Howard is completely batshit insane. Howard wanted more money than RJ and a contract that guaranteed him a raise to ensure he would always be paid more than RJ. They should offer to calculate his rate with his own math. If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. From the HBO series Girls, the boyfriend of William's character left abruptly because his agents told him he had to capitalize on the popularity of the show before it ebbed. I don't even remember his name. Adam Driver, on the other hand, stuck it out because he has incredible work ethic and loyalty to the projects he starts. And we all know how that turned out. Katie Holmes dropping out of Batman to do a bomb called Mad Money. With Nicole Kidman, the ex-wives of Tom Cruise. Eat it, Nicole Kidman was not in Mad Money. My mistake, Katie Holmes turned down a lead in Orange is the New Black. Katie Holmes turned down the role of Buffy in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series. Married Tom Cruise turned down Buffy, turned down Oyton. Maybe she's just a habitual bad decision maker. To be fair to some of the performers who left TV series, the 1-hour format is possibly the most grueling shooting schedule in Hollywood. The leads are often filming 7 days a week with both night and day shots for almost half the year. If production is not in your backyard, you have to fly and essentially live somewhere else on the few days you get off. Starting or raising a family is difficult and personal relationships can suffer. If you've already made enough money that you and your family will be taken care of for the rest of your life, why hurt everything for more money? Really makes me wonder how Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki were on Supernatural as long as they were. 15 years spent filming on that schedule. 22-24 episode seasons. Absolutely grueling. Got to assume the money and brotherhood made it all worth it. This kind of happened to Topher Grace from that 70s show. He left to be in Spider-Man 3, and I don't think he was what was wrong with the movie. He's popped up here and there and had steady work, but he definitely didn't launch into stardom. That being said, that latter seasons of that 70s show were just plain bad, and he looks almost identical to the way he looked 20 years ago now that he's in that 90s show. Dude seems to have made out just fine. I read an interview with him, and his logic made sense. He said, basically, that he got so lucky with that 70s show, and the show made him so much money, not just in acting salary, but also syndication royalties, that he had the freedom to basically just do what he wanted as far as acting goes. Which seems like an incredibly healthy mindset. Dude is clearly set for life, doesn't ever need to work again, so he can be picky and choose projects that he likes or feels passionate about, without having to hustle and grind and do projects he hates just for the money. Grace, playing the clan wizard in Black Klansman, spoke volumes, how he wasn't done yet acting. He was the first person that popped into my head, but when thinking about it, he hasn't made out bad. He's been working pretty steady and appears in the random big movie from time to time. He was probably worried about never breaking out of television roles if he stayed, which was a bigger worry back then, so he took his chance when he got it with Spider.
Me. I wish he stayed to finish his run on that 70s show in a more natural way. That show was shit after he left.
He's aging incredibly well. I saw a bit of some TV show recently and thought one guy looked like a young Topher Grace. Looked it up and it was older, but impossibly young-looking Topher Grace. His sitcom Home Economics is nothing groundbreaking, but if you like family sitcoms, it is enjoyable enough. Geez, BuzzFeed isn't even trying to hide it anymore. Edit. Holy shit, my snark is gilded. Thanks, guys. BuzzFeed, Bored Panda, and The Poke all get most of their material from Reddit thread. A good opposite to this question. Benedict Cumberbatch was doing an excellent radio series called Cabin Pressure. He became big during it, but still came back to finish the series. Rob Morrow from Northern Exposure. I nominate Harrison Ford as the opposite. He hated Star Wars and the character of Han Solo. Thought it was all pop fantasy junk, which to be fair, it kinda is. But it made him very rich and kept him famous. So he put on the vest and got back into the pilot seat despite strongly disliking the franchise and his character. He even consented to come back for the sequel trilogy despite his age and the fact that he could never spend the money simply because Star Wars was so big it kept his name in headline. I hear he hates Han, but he loves being Indiana Jones. I still wish there had been some footage of the original Han Solo choice. Gary Busey. As troubling as they are, Harrison did us a solid in the sequel trilogy. He carried episode 7,